must say it looks very tempting like that, and it does put the sliced loaf a bit to shame, doesn't it?
Yes, I think it does.
Now you're going to make some of those lovely sticky buns that I know I shouldn't eat, but I'm afraid are great favourites of mine. Once in a while I have a splurge.
Yes, I'm going to imagine that we've made a dough in exactly the same way, only with white flour. And I've got a dough that's already made, and I'm going to use a pound of it to make Chelsea buns.
So you don't need anything richer in the dough for buns?
Ideally, you do need a richer dough, but I'm just taking it because I think if you're making bread at home, it's quite a good idea to take a small portion of it and make buns and eat them the same day. I don't suggest that you make these Chelsea buns and keep them for the following day, but if you're making bread that day, make Chelsea buns for tea and they'll cost you very little because it's not an enriched dough.
And these you say you must eat the same day?
You must eat the same day, yes.
Yeah. Let's see that it's jolly good.
Now, this is, imagine you've made a couple of loaves and you've just got that small portion left, and I just weigh it out on the scales. That is in fact a pound, and I'm going to roll it out. I did knock it back. That was taking the air out just before we started. And I'm going to roll that out. First of all, I find it quite a good idea to just stretch it, and it wants to be rolled out to about 12 inches by 6 inches. It's quite difficult getting it out. It's not like pastry, you know, once you roll out pastry it stays where you put it, but not so with dough. It's so much easier, in fact, if you're making bread and you're starting, don't start with a white dough because it is more difficult to make and it needs a lot more kneading. So start with the recipe that we've given you today. That wants to
It's like a piece of elastic, isn't it?
It is. Giving it a push. I'm just going to flour it underneath because it's very annoying when you get to the
Yes, and obviously you can put too much flour on your table or board, can't you?
You can, and then you'll alter the consistency of the dough. There we are, we're nearly there.
And you don't put flour on your rolling pin?
I do, if you're just
Oh,
like
you do,
that.
just a little, yes.
And this is rather a posh thing, but at home I'm afraid I just dip in the bag and
That way it evenly spreads it though, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
there we are, that's just about the right size. And then just straighten it up and then put a filling over the top. So that's the pound of dough rolled out, and then I've got in the pan some melted butter, about an ounce of melted butter. To that I'm going to add 3 ounces of dried fruit, mixed dried fruit, and then a little peel, about an ounce. You can put grated lemon or orange rind if you like, and then brown sugar, about 2 ounces of brown
That's the
sugar.
demerara sugar.
That's right. I'm going to stir all those ingredients together and just spread them over the top. But if you bought these in the shop, it would be made from an enriched dough, and that's one with added butter and eggs and so forth. That's more expensive, and but of course it would keep. But we're making this to eat on the same day. Isn't that look delicious?
It does, actually. As I say, I'm making all my good resolutions about not eating sticky buns
Now
go by the
spread
board.
this right over.
Right to the edge.
That's right.
Aren't they going to pop out that way?
No, they're not. At least I hope they're not. There, that one did. And then you roll it up like a Swiss roll. And the butter makes it extra moist.
You've left a slightly thicker edge.
It's just slightly there because that's the way where I'm going to do my first roll. So gently turn it over here. Here we are. Press it down and then begin to roll over. Now sometimes, if you're in a hurry, this begins to stick underneath if you haven't got enough flour on the board. So get a knife and just run it underneath like that.
Either an ordinary knife or a spatula. A spatula is pretty handy to have in the kitchen, I find, for all sorts of things, isn't it?
Now sometimes I make these Chelsea buns, and if I'm not going to eat them the same day, the moment I've cooled them, I freeze them, and then they'll be beautifully fresh for another occasion.
You can freeze them.
freeze them, but you must, if you're going to make them you eat them the same day or freeze them.
I remember somebody telling me once that you must always only expect a loaf to come out of a freezer as you put it in. I mean, I think some people think that miracles are going to happen and it's going to come out much more moist and much nicer than it went in, but that's not true, is it?
That's a very good advice for all freezing, in fact, Judith, because you can't expect it to work wonders. It only things come out. If you put tatty food in, tatty food comes out. I'm just going to trim that little bit off the end and then cut it into 9.
And what size of tin is this that you've got?
That's 7 by 7.
So 9 will fit nicely into the 7 by 7 tin.
How about that?
Which you said you've larded.
I've larded
lightly.
it well. It is actually a non-stick tin. I've just marked it 9 because I'm not very good at judging it, and then cut through, and you'll get 9 pieces. This is something that if you make up a dough like this, and you've got children of up to about 10, this is something they love doing at home. You know, if you've been making bread, save a bit for when they come home from school and let them have a go themselves. You can imagine doing this rolling up. They really rather
I'm
like
sure
it, and then
they
eat
do.
it for tea because it doesn't take too long.
I'm looking forward to doing that today with mine at home.
There we are.
And then you put, obviously the currants are peeping out there. Yeah. They're going to expand, aren't they?
Yes. Now you can see that these, in fact, are they're almost touching, but they certainly haven't spread into one another. And then, just like the flour pot loaf and the other loaf, you put it to rise. There we are.
Put it to rise for a different length of time depending on the temperature again.
That's right. And if you had made this with an enriched dough, enriched doughs take much longer to rise. So, but with this dough, it'll just take a little bit longer than a loaf. So again, the same principle, covering it up with an oil polythene bag. And then you can put it in a warm place or in the refrigerator, just whatever fits in with the best, until it's double the bulk. Then it comes out like this. Now you see they've all joined up together, Judith.
Yes, I am. That's how you get that look when they're actually finally cooked. They've spread themselves.
Yes. Now there we are. That's before baking, and it's quite interesting to see that it doesn't alter at all. So when you put bread or Chelsea buns, whatever it may be, you put it into the oven, immediately the growth is stopped, the yeast is killed, and all that happens is the mixture is cooked through, and then it becomes golden brown. And something we haven't talked about is how to know when it's done.
Yes.
This one is still warm, and if you tap it on the bottom, you're not very hard.
Sorry.
There you are. You
Yes.
can hear that it's really done. And the same goes with Chelsea buns. And to make a shiny top, you can just put a little bit of honey on the top.
Ordinarily straight from the jar.
Straight from the jar, yes. And if you've got a slightly damp brush, this helps.
Well, I must say, Mary, I'm looking forward to sampling this bread you've made and to having a go at home. You really have made it seem so very much easier than I ever thought possible, and thanks very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed watching the programme today and that you will have a go at making bread for yourself. Hope you'll join us next week. Bye-bye for now, though. Bye.